Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Persona Interviews. I'm Rob Simmelkjaer, the founder of Persona. We'll talk more about what Persona is in future videos, but today we're going to talk to an incredible woman, my friend, Victoria Gouletas. A year ago this week, Victoria was standing outside in the yard of her home here in Westport, Connecticut during a heavy snowstorm. The weight of the snow caused a large branch to break above her and fall directly onto Victoria, hitting her in the head and the upper back. She was pinned to the ground and was rushed to the hospital, where she was given a prognosis that was devastating. She was told that she would never walk again. Victoria, thank you for sitting down with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you more.
So the first question I want to ask you is what everybody wants to know in Westport who's followed your story, which is, how are you doing?
I appreciate you asking that question. I'm doing really well. It's been about a year since the accident, and I have been fortunate enough to do a lot of therapy over this past year, get a lot stronger, and I am feeling a lot better than I was a year ago. So thanks for asking.
No, it's great. And it's been, I think, so inspiring for so many people who have followed your journey over the last 12 months to see what you've been able to accomplish, the work you've put in, but I think most importantly, the attitude that you've had.
Yeah.
How have you been able to, at least from what we can all tell, looking at you from the outside, deal with this with the smile and the attitude that you have dealt with it with all this time?
I think the biggest part of the attitude, the positive attitude, has come from really trying to put what happened in perspective. About 12 months ago, I almost died, and I had the opportunity from that point on to look at this and say, every day that I have is another day that I get to spend with my kids and my family, and in this town and with all of the people that I've met here, or I can have a different attitude. And I decided that I wanted to look forward and see all of this as an opportunity, because things could have ended very differently that night.
Yeah, and that night, let's just go back there for a bit. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but when you think back to that night, that period, what are the things that jump out at you? What do you most remember about that period? So
I don't remember a lot from that night. I certainly remember the storm, and my husband and I deciding to go outside to sort of assess what had happened with that nor'easter. And not to go into too much detail, but the small amount that I remember was, my husband saying to me, "Don't you see that?" And I said, "What?" And, he said, "Run." And I ran as fast as I could. I wasn't sure what I was running from. And that's really about the end of the memory I have until being in the hospital and talking to the neurologist and neurosurgeon about my condition and what my options were.
And what did they tell you at that time about your likely future?
So it's actually a funny story now. What they told me and what I remembered were a little different. What I thought that they told me was that I had a 10% chance of ever walking again, and that my situation was very serious and that surgery would be necessary, which I ended up having. What they actually told me was that there was likely no chance I would ever walk again. And they chalked it up to a 1%, token 1% chance.
Wow.
And I'm glad I remembered it slightly differently. My husband refreshed my memory about a month ago about what they actually said. And I told him I was perfectly happy remembering it the way I did.
Sometimes we hear what we need to hear, right?
That's right.
Right? So you heard what you needed to hear.
I heard what I needed to hear. Exactly.
Did you have a sense, because I remember the day, I remember the immediate aftermath of it, and what I remember most was just the outpouring.
Yes,
in Westport.
amazing.
The people who, just were, raising their hands, signing up to do whatever they could possibly do. How much sense did you have of that in the midst of it? Because you obviously were dealing with your situation. Did you
Right.
realize the outpouring that was going on?
So I was fortunate enough to have certain family members that were sharing with me what was going on. I cried a number of times. People wrote me these amazing letters and emails and called me to share with me their love and hope for my recovery. And it was an amazing outpouring of love. And every day I think about that and how lucky I am to have had such an amazing community of people I knew and people I didn't know who just said, how can I help you? And that it was overwhelming in a really wonderful way, especially in this day and age where people seem to be so separated, that all these people came together to show me kindness and support in all the ways that they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have 3 young kids.
I do.
What has it been like for you as a mother? What did you first say to them when the prognosis that was given to you was given?
I would say that they have been my biggest motivator. I have a young child, she's 3.5, and 2 older children. And I knew that they needed a mom. And so every day I worked really hard to be stronger and do whatever I could to be there for them. We tried to frame it as that this had happened. We don't know how it will all play out, but mom is at least alive and here to be with you. And we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. How many procedures have you been through? How many surgeries or subsequent sort of follow-up procedures have you been through in the last year?
So I was really fortunate in many ways. I had one surgery where they sort of built up my spine again and put in rods to protect it. And I also broke my neck a little higher. They had hoped that it would heal by just having a brace on for about 4 months. Didn't quite heal the way that they had hoped, but it did heal. And so I didn't have a lot of subsequent surgeries. And I've really tried to focus on keeping myself as healthy as possible, even with germ-covered kids in my life all day long. And so I'm thrilled because I'm at a year, which is the prognosis for surviving a year after something like this isn't great. So I feel like it's a huge accomplishment.
Surviving it at all.
Surviving it at all. So I'm about to hit that year mark, and I'm still here talking about it.
You're doing better than surviving, I
right,
would say. I mean,
right.
You are smiling. You're doing great.
I think attitude is a huge part of it, and I've really tried to focus on looking at the silver lining and having a positive attitude.
Yeah, and that's a question I want to ask you and try to understand, because people see things like this happen to other people all the time, and they say to themselves, "I can't imagine."
Right.
What would I do? How would I react to that? I'm sure you weren't trying to imagine this.
No.
From a philosophical point of view, how have you done it?
So when I was put in this situation, Troy, my husband, and I were talking about it after it happened, and you can focus on the loss, or you can focus on what you still have. And I remember my sister coming in, she got the last flight out of Chicago, had to knock down the rental car company's door to get a car, and drive through the rest of the snowstorm to get to me. And I said to her, listen, I still have all of my faculties, related to cognitive thought. I still can use my arms because my accident injury level was about here. I said, and that's enough. And if more comes of it, great, but I feel lucky that I at least have those things. Mm-hmm. It could have been worse.
People, I think, are tempted sometimes when these things happen to them or someone close to them to, go into these questions about why.
Right.
Is that a place that you have gone or let yourself go, or is that not productive?
it isn't productive. I've certainly looked a little bit there. And everyone has to grieve. Everyone has to grieve at least a little bit. Yeah. I really felt like it was a fight or flight sort of situation, and I needed to fight for my kids to come back as much as I could in terms of strength and be there for them. There are times when I'm sad about it, and I have learned to understand and accept those feelings and then move on and say what's next. Mm-hmm. And it's a process.
Yeah. So I know you have some news about what is next for you and for your family going forward, which is going to make a lot of people sad, but I'll let you share it.
So, my husband had been interviewing for a job right before the accident happened, and he actually called them when they offered it to him, to decline it, and they said we were going to move to Charlotte for it, and they offered the opportunity to work in New York, which he did instead of declining the job. But a year later, I feel like I'm a lot stronger, and they're offering him some other opportunities for moving to Charlotte, and we're going to pursue those and move in the next 30 days to Charlotte. Mm. The weather will be better, which will help a little bit.
Yes.
My body is much happier in warmer weather, but I will say that it's bittersweet because this has been such an amazing community, being in Westport, and everyone's, again, kindness and caring and helpfulness through all of this, that I'll be sad to leave as well.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people will be sad to see you leave. Yeah. You've made an amazing impact on the community in the time you've been here and the short time that I've known you. Right. And I know I'm sad to be losing you from Westport, but I'm really happy for you and for your family. I think it's going to be great for you guys. So congratulations. Thank you. And we're going to miss you. And the last question, I felt so lucky to be there a couple days ago at your therapy session and watch you take some steps. Obviously, there were steps with some help.
A lot of help. Yes, it's a start.
Those are steps after being told, 1%, and you remember 10%, right? But
1%.
You were told that wasn't likely to happen.
As
within a year, it's happened.
As my doctor said, you will never walk again. Mm-hmm. I actually sent him a video and said, remember to give your patients hope. Because we all need a little hope. So it was really exciting. And it isn't the same as the way you walk, but it is a start. And I'm thrilled to have that start. And it's a lot of work. And I've been waiting for this day for a while to be strong enough to do it. And I'm here now. And it's going to continue to be a lot of work. But it's progress.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode of Persona. We're going to have more conversations with amazing people coming soon.